Now, you did mention Darren Ferris earlier in the show, and I think kind of the bomb that went off yesterday, an absolute shocker. Taylor Hall to the Buffalo Sabres. 1 year for a hockey player, a star hockey player, 1 year contract, $8 million. The money is about what we expected. But how does Taylor Hall decide Buffalo's the destination?
Well, I think the easy answer is that the market wasn't as strong for him as it certainly would be in a normal year, but even maybe than he expected. And, I actually don't hate this move for Taylor Hall. I think it's like, was it Steve calling it 3D chess? I think it is like 3D chess for him. I mean, it's making the best of an imperfect situation. I mean, the Colorado Avalanche would have fulfilled his need to play for a winner, but they weren't going to pay him anywhere near $8 million to do it. A lot of the other teams that were interested, I think, offered some intriguing options. And I think he got closest with Nashville before signing in Buffalo in terms of actually maybe having a deal there. And for whatever reason, that fell apart. But I think they were talking about something a little bit longer than a 1 year deal. But really? Once they got through that, I think it was really only 1 year deals essentially. And he chose one that pays him at market rate, that reunites him with a coach he loves and a coach that doesn't mind some offense, which obviously is how Taylor's going to keep his value up, and allows him to play with one of the best young centers in the NHL. And if you look at Taylor's career, he hasn't really had an elite point-producing centerman too often. He really hasn't. I mean, I like Nico Hischier, and obviously they had a great season when he won the Hart Trophy in New Jersey, but, he hasn't had anyone like Eichel ever to play with. And so I think that he could have a monster year in Buffalo and be in a great spot. I think he's going to go back to Edmonton one day. Honestly, I think I really think he'd like in a perfect world, he probably would have been like to go to Edmonton now, but the Oilers just don't have the cap space. They had no ability to do that kind of move. And, I'm not saying that a deal's cooked up or anything, but I just think in his mind, he wants to play with star players and obviously McDavid would fill that. And certainly Eichel fills that for him now in Buffalo.
The only real way I see he loses this situation is if he has a bad season and the Sabres miss the playoffs by like 1 to 5 points or something like that. He'll either be amazing with them and help them be good, and he can re-sign there if he wants, or he can re-sign somewhere else in free agency, or he can go somewhere at the deadline because people are going to want him, because not only is he Taylor Hall, but now he costs less money because they didn't have him all year, which I'm sure will make owners around the league really happy. It's probably not his first choice to do a 1 year sort of show me with the Sabres, but I really don't see a situation where he loses here.
No, except that there's a physical gamble. I mean, every athlete, I'm a Cowboys fan. I just watched Dak Prescott, carted off the field yesterday. Unfortunately, it was a really sad moment just on a human level, but I do think that there's always physical risk for these guys. And I think that tends to be why you don't see NHL players play on 1 year deals. I mean, if you look at the NBA, right, LeBron James basically has played on short-term deals because it maximizes leverage. It ensured that if the cap went up, he earned more money in those years. But, and I'm not saying NBA players don't risk serious injury, but, I think hockey in general, just weird things can happen. You can be through no fault of your own, could have a career-ending injury. And so, I give credit even to like guys like Pietrangelo that played out the final year of their deal, that didn't just sign something to have that security. And in Taylor's case, it reminds me a little bit of Marian Hossa, not the same circumstances. Obviously, Marian signed on a 1 year deal in Detroit to try to win a cup. Whereas, I don't think truly Taylor Hall thinks he's going to win a cup in Buffalo, although I shouldn't put those words in his mouth, maybe. But he's still betting on himself here to have a strong year and to be in a better position maybe next year to hit the home run he would like to.
Jesse, you have a quote from the Taylor Hall press conference. Do you want to read that out to us?
Yeah, he said, this is from Luke Fox. He says, he's the best player on the team. There's just no doubt about it. Taylor Hall says of Jack Eichel, he just wants to win. I can't blame him. But I think the quote you're looking for, Adam, is the one about the team. So he also said, Buffalo is a team. Whether guys realize it or not, everyone around the league kind of pulls for them.
It's channeling his inner Pierre Dorian.
We're just going to say,
they're a team.
What are your thoughts on
you know
that,
what, though?
Chris?
It's a good hockey market, though. I pull for them a little bit, honestly. I mean, obviously, I don't really cheer for anyone, but I don't like seeing a place that cares about the game the way they do have the kind of run they do. Yeah. And I would have said the same about Toronto. At least Toronto in the last few years, I know they haven't won a playoff series, and you can make all your jokes, but they've won a lot of hockey games the last 3 or 4 years. And the 10 years before that, not so much. It gave rise to Steve Dangle. So they gave lots of.
I'm not here. If they're good, I'm not in this room.
Right. They gave lots of fuel to your. Well, I don't know what I'm going to call you, your dispositions. So,
It's a good word.
So,
wow. Well put.
I would like to see them get back. It was going way back. Like Chicago was a down and out hockey market, and it was awesome to watch the Blackhawks become good and have star players and, have 22,000 people in the largest building in the league at United Center. I mean,
and now they're down and out again. It's great.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. The circle of life. Circle of life.
So, how dare you?
But that's the thing I want to say, because here's the thing. Kevin Adams went in and controversially, in the height of a pandemic, cleaned house. Now, that's probably at the behest of the Pagulas, but this is a team that like the Senators, barely has any staff, and they are now signing. You could say, I guess you could call him the number 2 free agent. He's the top forward on the market. And yeah, he only signed for 1 year. And yeah, Kevin Adams is like, we'd like to make this a little bit more permanent or a longer term relationship, which we all do not believe is going to happen yet. Maybe
it could though.
It could. Again, anything can happen. It could happen at this stage in the game. It's hard to imagine that it does, because I don't think Buffalo is going to be able to turn it around this year. However, this is a home run for Kevin Adams. Where does he take this from here? Does it make Buffalo a more attractive market for players that are still out there in the market, because they do have some space?
I would think it does. And to me, they need to build up their bottom 6. I mean, their top 6 right now is
pretty good.
Legit NHL top 6. I mean, it's not the best in the league, but they're not. There's a lot of weaker teams at the top 6, than Buffalo is right now. I don't know what I don't know what the plan is in net yet there. That obviously Rasmus Dahlin, I think, is still going to be a star. They've got some pieces. They just have holes. And I don't know how much license or how much money Kevin Adams has to spend, because it does seem as though cost cutting, they're one of the organizations. I mean, the Pagulas outside businesses have been hurt, and then they're far from alone in that. A lot of NHL teams in the same situation, but they should be competitive for some of these free agents. And let's face it, the free agents aren't costing what they used to. So they'd be wise to add another player or two.
Interesting. Well, the goaltending situation, I think, for them is going to be the hardest part. Linus Ullmark remains unsigned as an RFA, and Carter Hutton obviously is on the last year of a $2.75 million contract. So, I mean, if they go with that pair, it's, I guess, Linus Ullmark has great moments. Carter Hutton had a year where, Steve, you talked about it a lot, where he was going to get paid and he got paid. But the question then becomes, is that tandem going to be enough? Whatever Linus Ullmark costs you, and you've got $13 million in cap space. If you're suggesting that they have an internal budget, and we have no confirmation on that, you might, I don't know. Now that they've landed Taylor Hall, can he go back to the Pagulas and go, listen, I mean, we want to keep these stars in town. We want to have somebody, if you can give me some money and, for this season, and let me go out and get a goalie. Let me go out and get another defenseman to play with Rasmus Dahlin, just to be the Batman. Sorry, so Dahlin can be Batman and this player can be Robin. Buffalo could nip around the playoffs next year. Do you see the Pagulas doing that? And do you see Kevin Adams having the kind of pull within that organization in his first season to pull something like that off?
Well, he certainly got a lot of pull with them, because remember, he was working for them for years, running the practice rink next door to the main arena. And ultimately parlayed that into becoming the general manager. Obviously, they thought well enough of the way he did business and what they learned about him that I think that he has their ear. Now, I will say this too. I think Ralph Kruger is a great coach, and giving him a second year there, I think we could pick them as one of the surprise teams, as long as they get a little bit more net. I think that's the biggest clear area where they need to be better. But like Eric Stahl can still play. I know that wasn't like a huge, sexy headline grabbing trade. And I think Hall's going to have a monster year. I mean, look out for like who's going to miss the playoffs if we have the Atlantic Division next year? I mean, Ottawa and Detroit are in tough, but then after that, I mean, you got some pretty good teams.
Not a lot available.
Both of them got better, I thought.
Yeah, but they're coming from a long way back in the pack.
That's true.
Yeah. not a lot available on the goaltending market. We know that Corey Schneider is probably going to sign with the Islanders this afternoon if he hasn't already. Craig Anderson is an interesting idea because, he's 39, but he had a 902 last year and probably can be had for nothing.
What about a trade, though? I mean, we still got Fleury. We still have one of the Columbus goalies could move, and I think both of them are pretty good. I mean, maybe there's a trade option there for Buffalo, which might address some of the financial issues if they're trading back, some money too to even it out.